Today's episode is one I've been looking forward to for a while because my guest this week is someone who I think embodies something I find really compelling. This idea that you can live an unconventional life, build a deeply shared partnership, and parent with intention and joy, all without having to follow anyone else's script. Manjima Bhattacharjya is a researcher and writer, someone whose work has always sat at the intersection of ideas, storytelling, and social inquiry. She and her partner Saurabh, a screenwriter and director, have been together for 27 years. 27 years. And what I love about the way Manjima describes their life together is the language she uses: independent lives, closely shared parenting. There's something deeply radical about that kind of intentionality. They're parents to two children, Tara and Arjun, and from what I understand, the journey of raising them has been a delight and tough in phases, which honestly is the most honest and accurate description of parenting I've ever heard. So let's get into it. Manjima, welcome to Parenthood. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you, Neha. I'm so happy to be here.
Let's start with where I always love to start with you. Not the researcher, not the mother, not the partner, just you. If you had to describe yourself using three words or phrases, what would they be and why?
Um, Curious.
Mm-hmm.
I've always been curious. I am uh, adaptive, and I am uh, I'm a doer, I think.
Wow. Wow.
So that's my, I would say that's,
Wow.
yeah. I mean, I remember once in my one of my earliest report cards from my teachers had this one line which I think defined me very well, and I must have been 6 or 7 at the time, and it said, "She works quietly and well," and
Wow.
that's that's sort of she got me.
Wow, I love that. I love that. And now I want to hear about your family. You've been with Sorrow for 27 years, which honestly is a life in itself. Can you introduce us to this little world that you've built together? Tell us about him, tell us about Tara, Arjun, all of them.
Well, you're right. It really seems like a lifetime, but you know what they say, it goes so the years they fly, the days they crawl, the years they fly. So my Saurabh and I are, I mean, it's really serendipitous how we met. I think we lived in Delhi. I think we met in Delhi through common friends, and very unusual sort of a um, very different lives, very different spheres, very different worlds that we came from. But that's how it is with love, always, and falling in love. And so I think we were together for about maybe 4 years before we got married, which was, we were also very unconventional people. I worked with a feminist group called Jagori. We also had a year of long distance relationshiping when I moved to Switzerland for a year to work. Um, yeah, and we had our own journeys. We were in our 20s, early 20s. And I think we sort of entered, we wanted to live together and be together. So it wasn't really the idea that we were getting married, but it was much more that just wanting to live together. And we entered thinking that this is our first marriage. I mean, we never thought of, getting married without an exit possibility. I think it was just
Wow.
we were young and we said, okay, this is our first marriage. And, here we are still here. Um, and that's it. I think we had the Barsati living in Delhi, one little Barsati where you first make, with one little stove, one single bed. Like it was, we enjoyed the romance of that life. It was not necessary, really. We
Yeah.
could always have, taken help from parents, etc. But I think we just wanted to live that kind of, life. We thought it was romantic at the time. And it was. There was like it was a little barsati on a terrace, and every morning In some seasons, the gulmohar would like drop all its
Wow.
red flowers on the terrace. So you'd come out and there would be like a carpet of red gulmohars on the terrace. So, there was a lot of beauty along with the penury and the, really not having uh, money. That Barsati living life, having one stove. First, you make the dal, then you make the chawal, and by then you're exhausted and you're like, so anyway, these kind of things, I think so we lived a very free floating kind of life. He was a creative person, he was an entrepreneur initially, then a writer. I was working in a feminist group. So it was and then I went on to do my PhD. So it was very organic, not very predetermined, and very unconventional by what our friends were doing at the time, which
Yeah.
was really seeking careers, seeking a job, seeking some sort of, a stable multinational job and so on. So we were different. I think we were aware of it, but we were you just go with the flow of whatever you want to do. So I think those are the sort of the foundation of that journey. Parenting came, I think 7 years after we were together. So that was perhaps another question that you have in mind. But yeah, that was another phase. I can't hear you, Neha.
For me now?
Yeah.
Okay. Tell me about Tara and Arjun as well.
Tara is now 20,
Yeah.
incredibly, and Arjun is 16.
Yeah.
Um, they are also very creative children. They're very different from one another, which is always a surprise and a shock to everyone, to me and to Saurabh especially. I think how you can raise two totally different personalities. Um, and one is in college, so she doesn't live in the house anymore for large stretches. So half an empty nest is what we have right now. And yeah, I mean, everyone probably says this about their children, but they really are wonderful. They're a wonderful sort of addition to our life. They always have been. It's been tough, but it's also like so exciting, to wait for Tara to come back because we have to watch Bridgerton, the new season of Bridgerton together,
Yeah.
or to the other weekend I turned up and Arjun was watching a French film by Jean-Luc Godard, just out of interest. So it's interesting to see who they become and the adults they become, and, just the building of new relationships with them is a lot of fun in this particular phase. Um, yeah, that's Tara and Arjun. Tara is studying to be a lawyer, so she's doing a law degree. And Arjun is in school. He's in the 11th grade. He's in the IBDP program at a school here in Bombay. And he has very mixed interests, so I'm not sure what he'll do. He does both physics and art. And so he has a sort of design bent of mind. Let's see if that's what he pursues. But yeah, so
Yeah.
that's them.
Yeah, I'll come back to Saurav again. I think I'm just so fascinated. Uh, 27 years is a very long time to know someone. And tell me, how has your relationship with him changed or deepened since you became parents together? What did parenting maybe revealed about him or about you, about the two of you as a unit?
I mean, I think so. I think firstly, the fun multiplied a lot. I think you don't really know you want to be a parent. At least for me, I didn't know I wanted to be a parent until I didn't imagine myself as having children, and neither did he. So I think there was one point at which, there was a pregnancy scare, and I took a pregnancy test, and it was negative.
Hmm.
I felt disappointed.
Oh.
So, which is when I realized, oh, well, why am I feeling disappointed? Like then that probably means that there's something in me that I haven't really been paying attention to. Um, but I think we were very clear from the beginning, like we did all those classes together, and, we saw it as an exciting sort of adventure in our life. At that time, none of our friends were actually having children. So it was unusual. We had only seen a couple of my older friends with children. And we really liked the casual way that they were parents. They were not like really, and they seemed to enjoy it. And so for us, my friend actually, Kalpana and Ashish, they were important to why we decided to go ahead with, having a child, because it was like, okay, this is possible, this kind of a relationship
Hmm.
is possible, this casual relationship where you still yourself, you can continue with your life the way you want to, um but still still have a different kind of a unknown experience with another person. It was exciting for us. So I think we had a similar approach or a vision of what this would be like. Um, I think that was an important realization, that we had a similar vision of what parenting could look like. And consequently, I think uh, I think over time we realized that our parenting styles were different.
Wow.
That is one thing I think we did realize. It's also linked to the kind of childhoods we had,
Yeah.
which are different. So it's the interplay between like the childhood you have and the kind of parent you want to be is also interesting. I think we realize that we're both very reflective people. So we are tend to analyze and think through and discuss what parenting means. I don't think we actually ever finished reading a single book on parenting. Like we got those books and people would gift you those books, like what is that book? What to
What to expect when you are
Yeah,
expecting. Yeah.
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. There were those books. I don't think we ever really got through any of them over the years. I think that it also it brought out for us also the gender roles very sharply, right? The
Yeah.
expected gender roles. And so you have to constantly push against that in different ways. So it's and consequently, much later on, I had a full-time job and he was writing and he was more freelance sort of oriented. Luckily, my full-time job was work from home,
Hmm.
but it had a lot of traveling. So then it's not just what you're doing in your home, the sharing of responsibilities you do, but also what the world outside sees, notes, makes comments on, you know, oh, yes, your papato is at home. Like, like people will
Yeah.
say kinds of things that can be nasty. And so you have to, I think, we were conscious of the roles and uh, that we were that there was something that was a tense area,
Yeah.
when you
Yeah.
were like negotiating, but also that one has to be free from it. It's not it's not something that can actually um, that can force you to play that role.
Yeah.
You have to write the script in your own life, and you have to play that. I think it's the thing is also that it's really exhausting. So like when you were talking about it now, I'd forgotten so much, right, of what parenting involved, like 20 years, what happened
Yeah.
20 years back. But the first years are hard.
Hmm.
They're very hard. So I think the deepening is also going through those hard things together,
Hmm.
those accidents that happen to kids,
Yeah.
and you have to go to the hospital,
Yeah.
and you're like, okay, now what?
Mm.
You have to admit your child in hospital. My daughter had a incident with her finger where part of her finger got cut off in school, um, in the with the chitkini of a bathroom,
Oh,
and so she needed plastic surgery, and she was what, three, three or something. So it was like one of those many of these kind of moments. I think the doctor, the hospital, those kind of moments are very, very um, revealing, as you
yeah,
said, in
yeah.
how you deal with a crisis, how you are together in a crisis, how, you share with each other what you're feeling at that moment. Um, and that's not the only one. I mean, my son has had so many stitches and, you know, uh, the funny moments too, like he tried to sharpen his his finger in a sharpener because he was curious about whether it would sharpen like a pencil. So then you get the call from school and then you have to go, and so there's all those moments are very important, I think. Now as we are, and those moments come in waves.
Mm.
It's not just the things you can see, it's not just the hospital visits, it's also children going through heartbreak and anxiety and like stress about exams or friends or the internet, or like the fights in the playground. It's
Yeah.
all those things that are the micro sort of things that you attend to together that
Mm.
create a different track, I think, in a relationship.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. What does it actually look like, in daily life? How do you, I mean, one is a reflection of it. You can look at it in hindsight and say that, okay, this is how we were and this is how we have been. But how does it look like in day-to-day moments when you have to do it together? How does that work?
See, I mean, at this age when the kids are much older, it is something else. So in the day to day, I would say we are occupying different roles in a
Mm.
sense that, if I am the person to come to for discipline guidance, or, like PTMs or knowing like those kind of things, then the kids will go to him in the everyday for like, uh, I'm stressed about this. I'm anxious about this. This is not happening. I want to call someone at 2 a.m. They know they don't call me. I'll be sleeping. So they will call Saurabh. So that's in the everyday, it's really that kind of, if it is something related to bureaucracy and making of Aadhaar cards, that's my forte. You know, if it is something related to tech, money, etc. It's a very gendered kind of division again, but that is the strengths that we each hold.
Yeah.
Nobody's coming to me to ask about, how the stock market works, or how, AI, or what's really changing in tech, or what are those kind of things. So in the everyday, there's clearly the children see us as having different strengths and they come to us for different things. Um, and I think as of now, more or less, that's what it looks like. It also looks like, the kind of support we need from the kids. Like
Right.
it is now really a different relationship, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of it is asking advice from the children about certain things. And they're very wise. Children are always very wise. So other than that, in the everyday, presently, with a half empty nest and with our careers both being at a stage where we are really, we were just talking the other day, it's like a summer vacation for us. We've never really had a summer vacation in years, but we are taking some time to do our own writing and, reading, writing, and really living a few months of thinking. And so this is, again, are possible because of, I suppose, the choices that we made to live in this way and not work in those kind of certain kind of jobs. Um, so the everyday these days is really about that. Who will make a sandwich today when Arjun comes back from school? Who will, this kind of stuff we were just talking about, how what is the we have to plan for paying fees in August. So how are we going to do that, and what are we going to, we'll have to plan for that. So it's that kind of the everyday is full of these little worries and little joys at the same time.
Mm.
um, and a lot of आज दोपहर को क्या खाएंगे, डिनर के लिए क्या है खाएंगे, सब्जी आया है नहीं, भाजी वाली is calling in the morning. Bhaji wali is Saurabh's favorite. The first call he gets in the morning is from the lady downstairs who sells vegetables. um yeah, so a lot of it is, and then
Yeah. Yeah.
it's really domestic life is its own beast.
Wow.
um and
Yeah.
it's very enmeshed. I mean, I think I always today this morning I was reading a book actually called I started reading a book called The Poetics of Space,
Mm-hmm.
which is by an architect I think called Gaston Bachelard. And I was just thinking, how much like a house parenthood is. Uh, I haven't thought it through yet properly, but it's like you occupy it first, and it's very sparse, and it's very like the walls are bare, everything is empty, and then slowly over time it fills up with stuff, and
Yeah.
it's like it's so personal. No two homes are the same, so
Yeah.
no two such sort of parenting journeys are also similar. I mean, there are things you, I don't know, put away in the loft or the basement or whatever, and things that you lose, things that are hidden, things that you find many years later. I mean, it's all sort of uh, it has different seasons, different light coming in at different moments. So I was just thinking, that you have to attend to it. It's a lot of housekeeping.
Mm-hmm.
My Saurabh calls it constant gardening, which is really what parenting
Yeah.
is. But at the same time, it's like a space of comfort, creativity,
Yeah.
healing, recovery. Also, like it can be stressful as well. So I think, and you have to keep spring cleaning things. I think sometimes it feels too full, sometimes it feels very lonely and empty. So, I mean, it's like, yeah, I was just thinking this morning after reading that book how much it is like a house
Mm-hmm.
or a home, that just really changes over time, that weathers over time, but is also like so many memories.
Yeah.
It is really a big um, canvas for memory building.
Yeah. I love that. I love that description and I love that thought. It's so vivid. It's so, and it's so like I can it's so visceral. The image is so visceral, and you've had nearly 2 decades of watching your babies grow, and I love how you describe parenting as a delight and tough in phases. And I want to sit with the delight for a moment because I don't think we give ourselves permission to name that very often. So, what has the delight look like for you in these 2 decades?
Oh my God. I mean, the best holidays with kids are really, just having fun with them. The delight is in these stupid things, also this, sharpening of my finger, and just constantly doing foolish things. The delight of like, even when my daughter learned to play the guitar, and, the thing of making music for both the kids, just watching them explore things. And I mean, the delight of always, I am that conventional parent who loves to watch my children sing and dance and do those kind of things. And but I really love it. It makes me so happy that they that they have a creative, they have the tools with which to have a creative inner life sometime
Yeah.
in their life, you
Yeah.
know. So, I mean, the delight is taking them places. I mean, I always enjoyed taking them on holiday, seeing them engage with the world, do their own thing, like, order their own food. Or,
Hmm.
I mean, the first time I remember when Tara used a straw, she was a baby, and then she used a straw to drink something. And just the surprise of that is like, it was so much fun. Uh, yeah, and then of course my kids were very cute, I have to say. So they were very like, like actually very good looking kids and um cute looking children, which is and they were cute behaving children as well.
Hmm.
They were a little over smart. I love the over smartness of children. They're like what people call precocious, but I really like it. Or people like when we were kids, they would say, oh, she's overconfident. But actually, what they just mean is she's confident,
Yeah.
and I really love to see children, at least my kids, give smart replies, challenge us, um, uh, talking back. Oh, that's so delightful. I find children talking back very delightful. It's like really, smart ass answers just really makes me like happy. So I think those are the things. Then just the delight of birthday parties. My God. I think that's again the childhood, the interplay between. I've always loved birthday parties, and I love having birthday parties. I've loved
Hmm.
organizing every single party, the themes, doing clues for treasure hunts. I mean, this is, of course, all my delight more than I suppose their delight. But definitely, my daughter certainly appreciated it much more than my son, who preferred to do parties and like football or some game stuff. But um, yeah, I think I just like loved, found great delight in their reactions to things. I think that's the
Wow. Wow. And talk to me about the tough phases without needing to go into anything you don't want to. But
yeah,
what has navigating those phases been like?
yeah. I mean, the toughest really has been a working woman. To be a working
Yeah.
woman,
Yeah.
I would say, is still extremely tough.
Hmm.
And even this is despite having such a strong partnership model and such co-parenting, yet there is still, you have to. I mean, parenthood introduces you, I think, to this whole ecosystem concept of living, right?
Yeah.
You have to engage with family, with your in-laws, with your parents in order to be able to provide a support structure for kids if you're a working parent. Um, Interdependence becomes such an important thing. So, all our lives we strive to be independent. And then now you're like, okay, independent is not how it's going to work.
Yeah.
You have to be interdependent. Um, and in the absence of everything else, and then the absence of creches or other systems of actually that
Yeah.
work, then you have to depend on household stuff, creating, nannies, cooks, that kind of infrastructure that you have to build,
Yeah.
which requires money, of course, but it also requires trust. It requires oversight. It requires a certain kind of personality, which I don't think I ever had because I grew up in Kuwait and we never had help. I mean, in the when I was growing up, so I am actually very unfamiliar with that world. And plus, the whole economics of it, you feel like someone is leaving their child to come and look after your
Yeah.
child, and it's
Yeah.
like it's very heartbreaking, but it's also you have to participate in that system. And then there is, the school moms and your WhatsApp groups later on. You have to participate. You have friends of your children's. You become friends with your children's friends, parents. Um, then there's the pediatricians, the ophthalmologists, the dentists for children. Like there are all this entire ecosystem that you have to participate in. You're your children's secretary. You're doing it's so the I think the really tough stuff is actually the working parenting.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's just for me. It is for me because I had a travel-based um, job in the development sector, and so even though I worked from home, there were you know, chunks of time where I had to travel. And so I had to, of course, depend on Saurabh, but beyond that, also depend on my in-laws because he was also working. So it's like, how do you manage that? I think in the last couple of years, he has been on shoots and
Mm.
away shooting for months at a stretch. And so I've had to be available, you know, really clear my desk for those phases. And my in-laws have been amazing. My parents have been amazing. So it's like if you want to follow your dreams and maintain not just working, but an inner life and really stay an individual beyond the being the parent, you have to ask for help.
Yeah.
It doesn't come easy to most of us, I would say.
Yeah.
You know, you have to ask for help. You have to I think really see the limitations of what you can do, what you can't do.
Yeah.
And there will be times when you will be traveling on your child's birthday, you know, which is
Oof.
like terrible.
Yeah.
But there have been times I've had to do it.
Mm.
And, it's just like the guilt, of course, everything brings guilt. It's not,
Mm.
again, only me. I know that guilt is there uh, for working parents, for non-working parents in the not in paid work parents. I think there was this cartoon I saw the other day, like women in a park with their children, and the stay-at-home moms and the working moms, everybody's carrying a backpack of guilt around with them while they're with their kids in the park. It's very funny, but it's true.
Yeah.
So I think the that kind of thing, finding help, finding nannies, trusting nannies, or yeah, traveling for work, and those are the things I would say have been the toughest times and the toughest in the early years.
Yeah.
The early years were, but there are phases, of course, like I said. So those first couple of years, then there is I think the 11 to 14 phase is also a very tough phase. The preteens, then
Mm-hmm.
perhaps I would say, with the board exam sort of phase,
Yeah.
and the later on when you're leaving school, those days. And they're all each different tough, different flavor of tough. Some are very now I see in retrospect bureaucratic. I mean, at the time they really felt like a mountain to climb.
Yeah.
In retrospect, I you know I see that perhaps it was an overreaction, or maybe it was just how old you are then and how you deal with life. So when you're
Yeah.
30 or in your mid 30s, it's different from when you're in your mid 40s or 50. It's the way you approach it is very different. Everything feels very urgent and
Yeah.
hard. Um, so the bureaucracy of parenting, I would say, is also a very tough thing.
Hmm.
So vaccination, so just being responsible for everything, whether it's vaccinations, your passport renewal every 5 years for two kids. You can imagine how many passports that is, or admission, this, that, the whole, it's life is bureaucratic. So when
Yeah.
you're responsible for two other lives besides yourself, then you're also responsible for the bureaucracy in that,
Yeah.
uh, you know,
Yeah.
managing bureaucracy like that.
Wow.
And the emotional toughness, I think it's tough to see your children go through sadness.
Yeah.
Um, it's tough to see your children make mistakes. It's very tough to be a bad parent. It's tough to show anger, to regret, you know, the occasional, whatever, the smack or the shouting or the raging or the yelling. Um, the parts of yourself that you didn't know, the bad parts that you didn't know were there, which come out in some situations of parenting. And I think those are very tough for everyone. Um, and yeah, you hope, no, I mean, you hope no one writes a book about you in those moments, but they will. And that's okay also. It's part of a transparency that has to be there in a household
Yeah.
for things to work. And
Yeah.
it's like it's everyone is witness to each other's life and each other's good things and bad things.
Yeah.
So I mean, I was reading Arundhati Roy's book, Mother Mary Comes to Me, which is a lovely book. Um, and I was more than actually about, say, my mother. I think I was thinking about being a mother
Mm-hmm.
more than, my relationships with my mother, which many people it would have triggered a lot of reflection on that. But I feel that it really made me think about myself as a mother um, and really as a sociologist, how the relationship between mothers and daughters, for example, is quite under-researched.
Hmm.
I feel like it's a very complex relationship, mothers and daughters, versus, say, fathers and daughters, which has a lot of like traction. It's got a lot of like daddy's little girl kind of a,
Yeah.
vibe. And I mean, I think feel very, many of us with good fathers feel that a lot of our independence is due to our fathers, is because our fathers enabled it. And we tend to undervalue the kind of everyday work that our mothers
Yeah. Mm.
put into us in us or invested in us. And I feel like a lot of the time when I am some of the research that I'm doing for my present book, many of us don't want to be like our mothers,
Hmm.
because it's like we aspire to be like our fathers much more than we aspire to be like our mothers, because it's like we want to break free from the shackles that we feel our mothers have lived in, you know. So that creates, I think, or perceived our mothers to have been. It
Yeah.
may not have been true, but we've perceived that they've worked. We see the constraints of mom and the freedom of dad.
Yeah.
And what we want is the freedom, and we don't want the constraints. So I feel this puts a distance on between mothers and daughters. And I think here I'm talking more as a sociologist than
Yeah. Yeah.
as a parent. But yeah. So I've forgotten your question in the in the
but
you're talking about the
I am
tough times. Tough
yeah.
times. Yeah, this is the these are some of the, I think, the tough stuff.
But I'm also very interested in what you said about your research and about your writing. And I feel from an outsider's perspective that kind of intellectual life requires long uninterrupted stretches of thought, if not of work, actual like doing of it or writing of it, at least of thinking. And you have such a full life in terms of being a mother, having two children, and deeply shared parenting life. In that sense, how do you protect your creative and intellectual space? How do you ever feel like you are able to carve out that room for yourself?
In the middle years, no.
Hmm.
Um, and it was one of the I mean, I realized that despite that, I did write two books, and a lot of it is because I had we sort of when I had to send off two kids to school, so in the morning, so getting up very early, and so by 7:30 both kids are gone. So 7:30 to 9:30 I would write, and then I would get to my day job work. Um, I can work 24/7, honestly, and in a way
Wow.
my kids have saved me from that workaholic lifestyle. So actually having children saved me from being this extremely uh, obsessed workaholic person, I think. But finding those large stretches of time has always been a struggle. So I went back to I was pregnant with with Tara when I was doing my PhD. So
Hmm.
I was still doing field work. I was driving and going to, do my interviews and come back. And then I had Tara, and then a year, I took a break for about 4 months, and then I had to finish my thesis. So I asked, my mom came, my mother-in-law helped, with really coming and help attending to the baby. Then my mom came for a few months and she would come in the morning. I would go to Teen Murti. I would express milk, keep it for Tara, go to Teen Murti, be there through the day, come back in the evening. Then my mom would go home. So it would, I mean, that that was the way in which that PhD was written. It was fine. I mean, it was an extra thing to do, but it was fine. And I think I knew that when I got to Teen Murti that day, I had to max that
Yeah.
day and I had to really focus completely. Um, Later on, I would say, I mean, both Saurabh and I have been writing from dining tables for a long time. So, and we live in Bombay, small houses, small flats, not enough. A room of our own, it's still a dream. A
Mm.
room of our own, a library, a space to work, a space to write. I mean, these are all still dreams for us. But the chunk of time that I first got was actually in 2016. I went for a writing workshop.
Mm-hmm.
I got accepted at a writing workshop in Chamonix in France, and so that was the first big, like a 2 week chunk that I went away. And Saurabh was there, and he asked his parents to help out as well. So it was, those 2 weeks were the big chunk that I got to go away and just work on my book Mannequin. That was where I actually sort of really finally finished, sort of consolidated much of that. But these chunks are important, but the rest of the writing is still an everyday thing. So you still
Yeah.
have to come back and you have to uh, train yourself to focus in small chunks
Yeah.
of time. And it's not just me, I think any caregiving requires that kind of what we call nowadays in ethnography as patchwork ethnography.
Hmm.
I mean, that is the reality, this assumption that at least in my in sociology and anthropology is that you are this person who can go away for long stretches and do field work somewhere and then come back and write up your work. It's not true for women
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah.
So you have to manage your inner life and your thinking life alongside everyday life.
Yeah.
And that's the reality that many women professionals have learned to do over
Hmm.
time and done it very well. So I do believe in that practice. It is a luxury to think that one can go away and write. I've tried it. Sometimes it's worked, sometimes it's not.
Hmm.
Sometimes I've tried it again. Like I think in 2023, I went away for a week again to write. Um, but I mean, it worked, but it is still a week. It's not a long-term solution.
Yeah.
Um, with empty nesting, perhaps the possibility emerges, but now you also want to be present for your parents.
Yeah.
So my parents, my in-laws now aging, so now it feels like okay, we also have to be available for them, and part of caretaking cycles
Yeah.
for them. So I have not found a solution to it, honestly. I mean, it's a dream to have that house in the hills or whatever, where you have a library where lined with books, and you just sit and read and write and think. Um, we do have it in some degree, like Saurabh does working on his own thing, I'm working on my own thing, come together to discuss what we might have read, something exciting. But even that is very much in the context of ringing doorbells and, Haji lady.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And coming back to your shared parenting model, it sounds very deliberate. Like I'm sure many of us do practice that, but did you deliberately build that? Like was it something that you explicitly talked about or did it evolve more organically?
Uh, Bit of both, I would say.
Hmm.
Bit of both, and a lot of circumstance.
Yeah.
Uh, there was a phase when Saurabh was running a tech startup for about 11 years, before which he um, sort of decided to work in the film industry and, take his chance in that. And it picked up. So there was the phase of him being now startup life is different.
Yeah.
That's a different kind of life. Working in the film industry is different, has a different kind of life. So for me also, being in full-time work for 10 years in the philanthropy sector with an international organization, which requires me to keep odd hours, was different phase. So a lot of has been circumstantial, honestly. Some of it was ability, so your instinct and your natural sort of personality and what you're good at and what works for you. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a great cook. I'm okay with sandwiches. So, you have to, my tiffins will be sandwiches. I don't know how to make rotis and parathas. I'm not getting up and making rotis, parathas. But some of it was, of course, very, was discussed. But, I think it surprises me, when it doesn't surprise me when a father does X, then everyone is like, oh, wow,
Yeah.
it's so amazing. Oh, he's doing this. Whereas it's a natural part of parenting. So I think you to get past that, that trophy giving tendency of people is is a good way to start a conversation.
Yeah.
And that often, made us discuss things like that. I think it's very hard to pinpoint one thing. There are still, of course, imbalances.
Yeah.
There was, and it's a standpoint thing. So if you have the same discussion with Saurabh, he would feel differently about the share. If you ask me, I will feel different about the share. I feel both parents always feel their standpoint is so rooted in society, social roles,
Yeah.
that it's actually very hard to have a common understanding of how much you did versus how much the other person did. But there is yeah.
And how do you like come to terms with you know like your own reality being a field work in that sense like because it's I also feel the same way. I'm asking this more from a personal standpoint than from a podcaster standpoint that sometimes intellectually academically it's easier to say that I will do this and I will not do that, and we'll share some things. But it just easy. It's just easier in practicality to just get to it and, do the damn thing, rather than, talking about who should do it and why should I not do it, why should you do it, things like that. Just opening up those conversations, I think that's also kind of, it is a lot. How do you kind of strike a balance between uh, playing those roles, playing those gendered roles, and fighting the system in a way in your own house?
It is with humor. Mm, that's always helpful. Mm, I think a little bit of self-reflection also, because sometimes it's actually not always gender roles. I find in my case, I am a little controlling. Like
Hmm.
I would, maybe I have to be, I've realized over the years that sometimes you do it not just to get it done, but because you want it done in a certain way.
Yeah.
And then it's like, it's okay if someone else does it and they do it in a different,
Hmm.
you have to learn to be okay with that. I'm still not good with that. I'm still like, I'm trying, but I think it is a little bit of that is like a personality
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
I don't think all these things will be resolved. I mean, one of the things I've learned from talking to older feminists in my workplace is that not everything is going to be resolved in this lifetime.
Yeah.
Okay, you work with what you get. You understand, you have to you try and live the way that you think is right, that's just for you and for other people, and then hopefully kids pick up on some of that and then they transfer it to their own life. Their whole lives will be different anyway, because I mean, I don't see my daughter cooking at all. So that kind of mm, so I think there is a limit to the kind of sharing that one
Hmm.
can expect,
Yeah.
is what I'm saying. I don't think it's a I mean, that is because of a combination of reasons. Um, I feel that there is also some, as I was saying, so if I am a more controlling person, if I love it when Saurabh and Arjun are in the kitchen cooking and I'm sitting outside drinking my wine. But that's because they like to cook.
Hmm.
It's not like they're actively,
Yeah.
uh,
Dismantling.
challenging.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
They like to cook. That's fine. Tara and I are not into cooking that much. So we're like, outside. So more and more I realize that actually it is what people like to do and what people are good at
Hmm.
that actually works when you share responsibilities.
Yeah.
It is hard to force people to do something that they're not very good at. And I know that that doesn't apply to women because they still have to get up and cook and fill water and all of that, and like fill the bottles, this and that. It's like, for example, I used to really hate taking the kids down to play.
Hmm.
That is like, I used to find it so boring. And this is a time when there were no podcasts and, things you couldn't plug into something and just like have some me time while your kids were playing. You just have to trail your child as they keep doing these, going from swing to slide to whatever. I used to find it really boring. But I still had to do it
Yeah.
because I was the parent at home at that time in the evening in the phase of the startup. So it was, but then I guess those kind of tasks, then I guess then the nanny system comes into play, right?
Yeah.
Those other, the infrastructure. And that's when, and I'm uncomfortable with the system, but then I've done it. It's not like
Hmm.
I've not done it. I see I am uncomfortable with it. I've always been uncomfortable with this sort of arrangement, but you do it, and that becomes a way to actually avoid. And that's for many things, right? Like you
Yeah.
really, a lot of work that gets then done by household staff is the way that you deal with this
Yeah.
difficult, the actual difficult stuff about sharing equally.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. That's helpful. Thank you. I have a lot to think about now. Is it my want to share equally, or is it, my personality in that sense? And also I think what you've said about people not forcing people to do what they don't like. It's also, I mean, yeah, it's hard to digest the fact that being a woman, you have to bear the burden of doing everything. And why does the man not have that burden in a cis het relationship? But that's how it is, and there's only so much that you can do to, kind of change the situation. So,
I mean, I think people do try to change the situation. But it comes across as complaining,
yeah,
This is the problem, that it's not, I do feel men, I mean, nowadays there is a difference.
yeah,
It is certainly different
yeah.
in some ways. But it becomes translated, this kind of thing is translated in general understanding as, like, nagging,
Hmm.
complaining.
Hmm.
And I think it's not right, but that is how it comes across. And when I hear a lot of my friends and talking about this difficult thing, now the issue is also that a lot of women who have chosen to be stay-at-home moms, or who are
Hmm.
stay-at-home moms, what is the leverage they have,
Hmm.
right? A lot of it is actually the stuff which is very hard to talk about, money. It's
Hmm.
about, are you dependent on someone? Are you independent? Saurabh and I we don't know about each other's bank accounts. We actually have very separate financial identities, and maybe that has been actually important. Maybe the
Hmm.
fact that neither of us has to ask one another for financial support, except say paying the rent. So there's a phases in which I have paid the rent, phases in which he has paid the rent, phases in which I have paid the fees, phases in which he has paid the fees, depending on our work situation. And so there is that question of money, I
Hmm.
think, underlies any sharing conversation, honestly.
Yeah.
So if there is dependence, if you are not financially independent, I do think women find it very difficult to demand shared parental responsibility.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a very big part of, why some women bear that load completely, because of the dependence. Yes.
Yeah.
But I'm so interested, if you are okay talking about it. How do you maintain separate finances? Like, how do you do that? What happens, for the household expense?
We've always had different finance. It's actually never, we tried to have one joint account once, more recently. And I mean, it didn't really work out. It was just like became one person's account only, essentially. But I don't know how that's happened, Neha. It's like we have never had a combined sort of a, but there are organically expenses that one or the other takes care of. In the initial days, I used to analyze it and think that, okay, this is a gendered pattern, because just out of curiosity. So the days when there was a startup, he would be paying the big things, the rent, electricity bill. I would be paying anything related to children and household stuff. So,
Mhm.
it's like there is some pattern somewhere, I think, of what we spend on, but it's mostly just sort of fair use, just uh, general, you know, uh, sort of, yeah. Yeah, I don't know how we've managed it. I think it's just really just me maybe working and we just have been that way. It's not
Yeah, yeah. I think it also speaks volumes about the trust, the inherent trust of not. I mean, I think it takes immense trust on both ends of the spectrum. When you have completely shared finances, where you're not questioning what the other person is spending and from which account, and to have separate finances where you are inherently trusting the other person to do the right thing, or by taking up that share or of spending. Like, I'm just thinking about it. uh, how does it work? Because if you are not 100% in it, if you're not trusting the other person, like, you would start cutting corners and you would start hoarding the money. Is that ever a thought? I don't even know how that works, because I'm just thinking about it. How does it work? Where do you become selfish and where do you become selfless in this whole arrangement? I mean, of course, it's not a question for you. I'm just thinking aloud. Yeah.
We can only speak for, I mean, I love that I don't have to explain my financial decisions to anyone, my personal financial decisions. But big decisions like what kind of rent can we afford as a unit?
Yeah.
So those kind of, can we afford to buy a car? Can we afford a holiday? Those kind of things, they are the decisions are taken like more or less together. So what is the kind of budget of the hotel that we can stay in? So those kind of, you have those decisions, and then those are spread out. Okay, I'll buy the tickets, you do the hotel, like whatever, that kind of thing. But this, what is selfish? I often think about that actually, because it's like, what is selfish is wanting to, because I think of, maybe my mom or my mom-in-law or friends who have been housewives in the traditional,
Yeah.
yeah. And for them, they're not the way they save and cut corners. Actually, so much of household wealth is built on that saving.
Yeah. Yeah.
you know Purchase of, I don't know, fridges or
Hmm.
microwaves, or I've seen that, those kind of expenses which actually make maybe life easier for the housewife, is these are not luxuries.
Hmm.
They are
Conveniences.
necessities, they're conveniences, but from, or I need a new whatever, I want a new carpet, I
Yeah.
want new furnishings for my sofa, new curtains. um, I have seen, women sort of save towards those kind of goals that make living more aesthetic or convenient or pleasurable for them. Uh, and I think a lot of it is symbolic, honestly. It's like the having finances of your own is more symbolic than it is real. It's actually it's a place of comfort, and it's
Yeah.
really that is the freedom. Actually, that is where you concretely, that's what you see as freedom. So it's not it's not a question of selfishness. It's actually you're carving out something for yourself. You're seeing freedom in that. You're seeing pleasure in that. You're seeing some maybe return for unpaid work. I mean, not everyone can articulate it like that. Some people can. I have seen women who are very clear that I am doing the household work. So actually, I'm not getting paid for it. So, I should get, my husband should give me this,
Yeah.
pocket money in a
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
But it's not really just pocket money. It's because I'm doing work. So
Yeah.
I'm doing the housework. There are other people who think that it should, I mean, there's who absolutely do not get that and feel awkward even asking for a sari. Like, I need to buy something new. So I think there's a very diverse experiences. I would love to research this. Honestly, I
Yeah.
have never like cash in hand what it means for women, especially women who are homemakers. What is the thinking behind it? What does it do to them? What does it make them feel about themselves? Uh, yeah.
Yeah. I love this conversation. I think I'm learning so much, and this is such an enriching conversation. But I'm also cognizant about the time and the limitation of it. So I will ask you my last question for the day. And this is a question that I close every episode with because I think it cuts straight to the heart of things. If there is one piece of insight, one truth that you've arrived at through all of this, your 20 years of parenting, something you want to send out into the world today, what would it be?
Mm, maybe that one thing only.
You can say multiple things.
I think nurturing everyone's inner life is very central to a happy household and a comfortable family unit with
Hmm.
parents in which parents are living with their children.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think everyone's inner life must be nurtured in different ways. That's an important thing. I think I've also learned that it is all you meet a new person every day, you meet a new version, a new edition of your children every couple of years.
Hmm.
And don't forget, you're also a new edition of yourself. And so I've learned not to grieve past editions, but enjoy the present editions
Wow.
and look forward to the newer ones.
Wow. Wow. That's so fascinating. Manjima, this has been such a beautiful, nourishing conversation, I would say. Thank you
Thank you,
for trusting
Neha.
this space. Thank you for showing up so fully.
Thank you, Neha. Thank you. I've enjoyed really thinking about it. Many things I haven't thought about, and I appreciate you bringing me the space to do that.
Thank you. Thank you. And to you, the person listening, wherever you are, whatever your day looks like, thank you. Thank you for choosing to spend this time with us. If something in this conversation moved you, I'd love for you to share it. Send it to a friend who needs to hear it. Leave us a review. Subscribe if you haven't already. It genuinely helps more people find their way to this community. I'll be back soon with another honest, warm, real conversation. Until then, take care of yourself. Bye bye.